Hey guys, Gary Tabakman here, Houston criminal defense attorney and now practicing family law attorney as well. Let me tell you a little bit about why your criminal case may turn into a family law case and vice versa. It's highly important to coordinate both family and criminal law cases due to several factors. So when we're talking about family law cases, there are certain circumstances which occur within a family law context that clearly have criminal law liabilities and potential penalties. Due to the fact that criminal cases carry obviously jail time, the burden of proof is much more important in that type of scenario. And thus, it's very important that while you're handling your family law case, that you hire a good criminal defense attorney that has knowledge of criminal cases along with your family case in order for you to succeed. So what are some of those example types? So just right off the top of my head, we have protective orders, custody and criminal allegations within those types of circumstances, substance abuse, certain types of sex crimes, child support, and immigration, just as an example. Now, in what context does this all come into play? So, with respect to protective orders, just as an example, if your spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse files for a protective order, has not filed for divorce yet, protective orders carry criminal penalties. So a violation of a protective order can carry a penalty of up to a year in jail, which is a Class A misdemeanor. Why is that significant? Well, the reason is because that could be used as leverage in your divorce case. And thus, it's highly important that you hire a good criminal lawyer in order to be able to attack any sort of allegations that are lodged against you, because it is going to be used in both proceedings potentially. So an ex-spouse who has a vendetta or who has decided to use as much information as possible in order to make things more difficult for you will definitely attempt to utilize this process, because it is set in another court, which is not in the family court, not in the criminal court. It's in a protective order court. And that court will handle things very differently from both of the other courts. And thus it gives your soon-to-be ex an opportunity to be heard and also to get the state of Texas involved. So in a protective order court, you will have a judge that will make decisions of certain allegations that have been made. Usually you will not be given a lot of time. However, once a party comes in and makes those allegations, there begins a process of where things go on the record. Whatever the court reporter takes on the record in that court can be used in both criminal court and in family law court. If properly defending a protective order, you gain the advantage of which your spouse has created a scenario where things are portrayed to be far more serious than they really are in the context of what your family life was like. And thus, protecting yourself and making sure that you take advantage of an opportunity to cross-examine your soon-to-be ex is an opportunity for you to develop a record and use that later on in both your criminal case and potentially your family law case in the event that those situations go to hearings or trials. So it's really, really vital for your case and very important for you to be able to defend that type of proceeding well ahead of time, because it provides you for certain leverage and advantage on your end. Second type of scenario where we see criminal cases and family cases cross over is in custody. So once your divorce has begun, or once your divorce has been finalized and there have been certain orders that have been made within either the temporary orders or the final decree orders that give individuals certain custody rights. Once those rights are violated, the family court can potentially enforce those orders by contempt and sometimes by criminal contempt. And that has potential of giving an individual jail time. Thus, it's important to be able to communicate with a criminal law attorney to understand what a criminal contempt order may look like and why a criminal contempt order can actually be properly defended and what it takes to defend a criminal contempt order. If you were to contact a criminal defense lawyer that practices both criminal law and family law, it could help you get an advantage and move forward much more smoothly through that process and with the knowledge that's required for both different law types. Another area where we see these crossovers can occur within the context of substance abuse. So obviously, prior to divorce proceedings, during divorce proceedings, or even after divorce proceedings, certain individuals may make allegations of substance abuse or that they believe that substance abuse is a problem. A criminal law attorney has a lot of experience within that area because a criminal lawyer typically handles many different types of clients who've gone through a lot of challenges within their life around the substance abuse area. And thus a criminal law attorney knows a lot of different type of rehabilitative facilities, doctors, psychologists, individuals that can get involved, professionals that can get involved, that can help defend against allegations of substance abuse. It's important to understand that we are people and we are not perfect and everybody makes mistakes. And whenever you are facing a judge who is to make a decision whether or not there's an issue with respect to substance abuse, because it could turn potentially criminal, we need to make sure that we properly defend against that. Because again, everything goes on the record, and you want to make sure that your family law case doesn't potentially turn into a criminal law case. Sometimes there are referrals from family law courts to the DA's office or to police investigators, which can turn a case into a criminal law case. And substance abuse and drug use is one area where that may happen. Another area where that may happen, which we see very frequently, unfortunately, is where individuals use the allegation of child abuse within the context of a family law case in order to gain leverage in their family law case without realizing the repercussions of what this may look like for the individual that where the allegation is being made against. This is not to say that there is not real circumstances of abuse occurring. There are, and it's horrific. However, you would be shocked to know the percentage of cases where individuals, whether it's a mom or dad, that decide that they are going to lodge false allegations and try to convince particularly younger children and coach younger children to say certain things in a certain way in order to make it seem like their significant other was abusive. Now, why is that significant? Well, for multiple reasons, obviously. In the family law context, it can get your rights to custody taken away from you. In the criminal law context, once an investigation like this starts, what that spouse that has convinced the child or has communicated certain things to CPS or to the police makes that allegation doesn't realize is that it turns into a full-blown criminal investigation, which could result in very significant and serious criminal law charges. So what do we do in that context? Well, if you have an attorney that has an understanding of what CPS proceedings look like, how those CPS proceedings may impact a family court case, then that lawyer may help navigate that entire investigation and can help resolve that investigation before it goes too far, especially before it goes into a criminal law case. Having the right requisite knowledge and explanation to a client who comes into my office to explain to them what we need to do and the steps we need to take to make sure that we are ahead of the ball and to make sure that we know how to protect that client's interest well ahead of an investigation moving forward before charges are filed is a really great advantage for purposes of fighting your family law case and potentially your criminal law case. Why? Well, let me provide you a very simple example. You have a mom and a dad going through a divorce. There are kids involved. Let's say mom is scorned. Just as an example, we use mom in this example. And she feels that in order for her to get what she wants, she has decided that she's going to convince one of the kids that dad has been abusive to the child. And this comes in many different forms and shapes, and how someone chooses to do this comes from many different angles. But there are telltale signs that I have already seen and I know where you can see that a child, and you know that a child has likely been coached. Once you're able to reach into that space, it gives you the ability to create a roadmap of cross-examination of that spouse that has attempted to convince the child to do this. You have access well ahead of time to certain things before a case may potentially turn criminal. And those things may be interviews within the context of law enforcement interviews, CPS interviews, child assessment center interviews, interviews of the hospital records if a child was taken to the hospital. There's a whole slew of things that start to come in that look like discovery in a criminal case. So you start to use these things in both proceedings. Now, getting ahead of this, is vital because we can then, for example, in a family law context, we can ask for the mom to be deposed through a deposition in the family law case and be able to cross-examine that spouse on the record, create a record that can later be used in both the family law case and the criminal law case. That gives you leverage in your situation. That same scenario happens obviously in other contexts as well, where you may potentially have, thus coordinating criminal cases along with family case strategies can be incredibly useful, as you could see through my example that I just provided to you, that it could be used as a very valuable tool in your case that could help streamline things in the direction that gives you a sense of control, and it gives you a lot of possibilities and a lot of open roadmaps for you to consider of how to move forward in a direction that ultimately helps you. Another area where criminal law and family law cases cross over is an example would be in a child support scenario. So not paying your child support is contemptible by jail time. I have personally had child support cases that have, believe it or not, have actually been filed in federal court and as a criminal proceeding, because I've had clients who have had children in multiple states throughout the country. In that particular scenario, it was actually in 5 different states. Child support has not been paid in any of those states, and the child support was to the tune of well over $300,000 by that point in time, which led to criminal charges being filed against the individual in order to be able to recoup the money, but also that individual ended up facing potential jail time. And so you want to be able to make sure that if you have issues with respect to paying child support, or your significant other is not paying child support, you should contact an attorney that has experience in that area in order to be able to help navigate the situation regardless of what end you're on. At the end of the day, people are fallible. We have busy lives. We have complicated lives. We're going through things that other individuals may not understand and other individuals may not know about. And in order for us to be able to vocalize who you are and what you're going through, it's important to have a lawyer that has had experience in those areas and help you navigate your very complicated situation with respect to things such as child support. Another specific area, and probably the most common and the most complicated in the area of family law and criminal law combined together, would be fraud. So in more contentious property type division family law cases, especially where high sums of money have been used or spent on property, complicated business analysis, complicated taxation analysis, where there needs to be fraud examiners that may be used in order to trace money. In certain circumstances, those things turn into criminal investigations as well. Having an attorney that specialized in both criminal law and has good requisite knowledge of a family law case and how those two combine together can help you navigate that investigation and get ahead of any potential issues that you may have or any potential issues that are being alleged. Obviously, a highly contentious property divorce case will involve high sums of money. It's going to be very emotional, and people are going to say things and do things that they have not really thought through, and that they have not really even thought about the full impact of what this may have on your ex's future, on your future. And so it's important to communicate with the family law and criminal law attorney at the same time, either hire one or both in the same context in that type of case, which I highly recommend is hiring 2 different lawyers, sometimes even 3 in a very complicated case that can help navigate a very complicated property divorce proceeding with fraud allegations. Another scenario where we see both criminal and family law crossover is domestic violence cases. So this is a very common situation, an unfortunate one, where spouses, couples, individuals that may not have been ever married or may have kids are involved in very emotionally charged, tumultuous relationships that sometimes turn violent. In that context, there are circumstances and situations that occur where law enforcement is involved. Criminal cases may have been filed or may not have been filed yet, but domestic violence becomes an issue and the center and focal point of your divorce. The most important aspect that people need to understand in this context is that your relationship with your partner is very much separate from your relationship with children. And so it's important to remember that at the end of the day, if courts see and understand that there may have been an isolated incident and a situation of not where there's some sort of continuous efforts of abuse or abuse occurring. It shouldn't scare you to such a degree to know that, oh my God, there's been an allegation lodged against me and I don't know how this is going to move forward. I might not be able to get custody of my kids. At the end of the day, the court system in family law court is designed in such a way to where they think of what's in the best interest of a child, and more frequently than not, what's in the best interest of a child is for both parents to be involved in the child's life. And so for you to properly defend a domestic violence case that may have been charged or may potentially be investigated, it's important to utilize that case and to defend it in such a way to where it's not going to be used as leverage against you in a family law case. So this becomes complicated. I mean, sometimes one case may move forward quicker than another. Sometimes one of the cases, or if a criminal case has been filed, that case can be used for purposes of leverage and a mediation, for purposes of getting more out of your ex to be able to utilize that as kind of a power grab over certain things or custody rights. Sometimes it could be used in the context of, obviously, trial. If you go to a trial and you may have had trial in one proceeding and you're moving forward to trial in another proceeding, there's records that have been made in both cases where people have testified under oath, penalty of perjury. And so you have these records that you could utilize to your advantage in order to be able to cross-examine someone on the stand. This, by the way, goes both ways. So it's not only individuals that have been accused of committing domestic violence, it's individuals that seek to accuse someone of committing domestic violence. If you have an attorney that understands how to navigate the criminal law process in the background, how these investigations start, who to contact, how to get the ball rolling in order to get a criminal law case filed, because there has been abuse or there has been systematic abuse over time, then you could help that individual use that type of scenario in their family law case as well. If done properly, again, you've created a trail of records, a trail of evidence that can be used as a stack of opportunity to be used in a family law case that can help you ultimately get a better outcome at the tail end of that process. So as you see, this is an ever-expanding part of both family law and criminal law. Both mold together frequently, and thus hiring a lawyer or communicating with a lawyer that has had experience in this arena in both types of legal proceedings can be incredibly beneficial to you. So give me a call or click on the link below to get more information, and I'm happy to meet with you in order to discuss your situation and help you guide yourself out of the circumstances that you find yourself in. Thank you.